I'm very honored and proud to bring up the giant Garett Reppenhagen. Garett Reppenhagen is a giant. Have you seen his big stuff? He's very important to IVAW's history, as all of our IVAW members are. Garett has served on the IVAW board of directors as the chairman of the board and did a great job. Garett is also one of our first active duty member. Who joined when he was in Iraq. He also was writing poetry and blogging in Iraq and has done a great job to support other members of this organization in becoming leaders and leading the GI resistance movement. So, Garett, if you would come in.
Hi, hi, hi. So, yeah, I don't know if everybody realizes why we're having a lot of IVAW members here this weekend. It's actually because we're doing a lot of planning for the DNC and the RNC protests. There's a lot of us who don't feel like we're not going to solve this problem of the war in Iraq and the problems in the United States by a single vote. And these elections really aren't going to mean that much. So whether it's Obama, Hillary, McCain, who becomes our next president, we're going to see a lot of shit that's all the same, and we'll actually might see some deflation in the anti-war movement due to some of these people being elected into office where it's like, job's done, we can go home now. And the truth is the job won't be done. There's going to be a lot of hard work that needs to be done, and the dedicated people that are going to do it are going to still be standing there. And we got to still be growing a movement. We're going to still be relying on places like this, the US Army Cavalry, the collective here in Colorado Springs, and our growing movement of veterans and activists to try to stop this war and change America for what we want it to look like. So let's keep this hard work together and keep in touch with us to see what we're planning to do for the DNC and the RNC. The first poem I'm going to read is called "The Anxiety of a Weapons Malfunction." This is in the new book, The Warrior Writers, and it's not one of my usual poems. It's kind of like an onomatopoeia. It's kind of a lot of sound, but try to imagine being in combat, fighting an enemy, regardless of whether you would assume you'd find yourself in that situation or not. A lot of men and women in America eventually find themselves in that situation and don't really understand why they got there. But try to imagine you're there and imagine that the one thing that's keeping you alive, the threat of this one important weapon, actually jamming and malfunctioning while you're trying to use it to save your life. Anxiety of a weapon malfunction. The world rattles, Kevlar pops, AKs crackle with star-bursting muzzle flash. Piff, piff, pop, pop. Cover fire! Cover fire! Drop magazine, lock, load. Pop, pop, snap! Cover fire! Cover fire! Ship position, scan sectors. Snap, snap, snap! Misfire! Misfire! Slap, pull, observe, release, tap, squeeze. Slap, pull, release, squeeze. Tap, pull, squeeze. Slap, 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 slap! Anxiety of a weapon malfunction. Alright. Not all my poems are serious. This one I wrote just recently while we were in Baltimore doing a Warrior Writers workshop. We actually did it in this really cool like art classroom setting, and there's a lot of cool toys in there. I don't know, I wasn't feeling that serious that day, so I wrote this poem called Home Field Advantage. I got this hang up on this idea of we got to fight them over there so we don't have to fight them over here, but I don't know. I just recently watched this movie called Day Zero, I think it's called. Well, the premise is that there's a reinstatement of a draft because the war expands into Iran and Syria, and now there's a draft. And if you guys don't realize, only 1% of Americans serve in the active military today. That's the least amount in the last centuries that has served in our active duty military per capita. And if we had a draft and we actually doubled the population of our military, and we actually had, instead of 180,000, we had almost 320,000 soldiers in Iraq fighting this war, it'd still only be 1% of our country. And I was starting to think of, like, what if there was a draft, you know, would things really change? People would still be, like, going to work as usual and not giving a shit, and going to the mall and watching American Idol. So this poem is home field advantage. I think you'll probably get it. My own backyard I know too well, better than that damn desert waste. My hometown has pubs and parks. Stray dogs and moss don't suit my taste. We are a xenophobic lot. Americans love their guns. And if it gets a bit too deep, there's plenty of room to run. With a little change in tactics, we won't burn the same 10,000 troops. Fuck this stay the course shit. This track only goes in loops. The mobilization is costly, and I could sleep nights in my own bed. If they storm the Jersey beaches, I could ride bikes to the war instead. So come on all you cowards. I think the message is clear. Let's fight them over here, so we don't have to fight them over there. So, it's a little comedy for y'all. I'll read one more. This is one of my latest, and it's becoming one of my favorites. It's called Dear Line Xray. The workshops that Lavella runs uses a lot of different creative methods to get us thinking on how to write poetry. And this one method was to imagine you were writing a letter to somebody. And we read a Vietnam veteran's poem where he wrote it to basically the enemy. He wrote a poem to the Viet Cong that he was fighting, one in particular that shot an RPG at him and missed. So we all kind of took thought for a while and wrote a letter. Mine's Dear Line Xray because Line Xray is when you're out in the field, you call back to your home base, you call back to your TOC, your command center, and the person that actually answers the radio is not your commanding officer. It's usually the executive commander who's kind of like put in that ship position to run the command center and operate the radio lines. So when we're out there on the radio, that's kind of who we talk to. So I wrote my letter to him, Dear Line Xray. Dear Line Xray, it's me again, just checking in, like we used to do. From Route Warhorse, the JCC, from Shadow 2-2. Remember when we got caught? We were all pinned down, ambushed on an infill. I thought it was over in that ditch taking rounds. I called for fire. We walked in mortars up the palm tree line. You always had my back those days, just not all the time. Like when I was calling sit reps from Hib Hib before all that shit broke out. We could have used some help right then from my fellow scouts. Well, we shared some times, the two of us, the crazy shit we've seen. I'll be calling in from time to time, in a panic or in my dreams. Maybe you can explain to me what the hell it was all about. Line Xray, this is Shogun 1, over. Line Xray, this is Shogun 1, out. Thanks everyone.